Say what's up. Do me a favor. Say what's up as you come in the chat. Say where you're watching from, and most of all, hit that like button because it does a ton for the video and the channel. All right, guys. So, first live stream of the day. Kind of early on purpose. Yesterday we got a chance to live stream, but I was doing it off of Streamlabs. So I was just trying something different, just because sometimes I like to switch it up. But it might not be time for me to do that permanently just yet. So I'm still going to come to you guys this way, even if you see me live streaming the other way as well. This is my most popular way of live streaming. This is the way I've started. So this is what the people like, right? So this is what I'm going to give the people. Other than you guys will see me on the regular live stream as well when it's not vertical, and you just hop in there. I'll make sure I try to put those out earlier, since they're not my verticals, and people won't just be hopping in and out necessarily. I'll try to get that notification out earlier. Nonetheless, happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy hump day, early in the morning. So we're gonna watch some news early in the morning. I got I think I got two clips, just two that I used last night on a previous live stream that I want to bring here this morning, and then I have two new ones. You guys see the thumbnail, you see the title, so we are going to jump right in. Good morning, welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kieran Smith, call me Q, and what's up, y'all? We are back on the corner. So let's go ahead and jump into the live stream. The first clip we got, shout out to Anthony Brian Logan, 20 minutes of black DC residents supporting Trump's federal takeover. The reason why I thought this was important is because I'm also going to play Maryland's governor, that's Wes Moore, his reaction, and I believe it's Pritzker as well, and he's in Illinois. They're both reacting to the possibility of President Trump coming to their states, and they're letting it be known how they feel about it. They're not the happiest about it, but that's why I felt like it was necessary to play this, because while everyone else is losing their mind about what's going on in DC, the residents that actually live there, they feel great about it, and they actually are happy that this is the first president that's actually deciding to take care of Washington, D.C. You have so many black residents saying, good on you, President Trump, good on you. And guess what? That matters, because the majority of the people that live around there, especially in, let's just say, the impoverished neighborhoods, they are African American, Hispanic people, and they're happy about it. Like, I can't tell you how many. So I was so happy that Anthony Brian Logan covered this the way that he did, because you can literally see the residents of all different tiers, shapes, different shades of melanin saying, like, we are happy that President Trump is doing this. I don't understand how anybody can be upset about it. And then we're going to go over to Maryland's Governor Wes Moore. We'll see what he says about Wes Moore calls Trump DC National Guard deployment unconstitutional. So that's how Wes Moore feels about it right now. And he spits off a couple of statistics as to why he feels that way. Then we'll go over to CNN, where he talks a little bit more about having a message to Trump wanting to deploy the National Guard to his state. So he has a specific message for that. And then over in Illinois, do not come. Illinois Governor blasts Trump plans to deploy the National Guard. So it looks like Illinois and Baltimore are on President Trump's radar. Not saying it's actually going to happen, but it seems to be that way right now. So we're going to jump into the first clip. Anthony Brian Logan, shout out to him. 20 minutes of black DC residents supporting Trump's federal takeover. Let's take a listen. Let me make sure you guys got the volume up. W chat, say good morning, you guys. Hit that like button for me. Say what's up. All right, first clip. Let's go.
Thank you, Trump. You can now come and check out the monuments, get something to eat, and check out the sights in Washington, D.C. and not get robbed, carjacked, or killed by somebody who looks like me.
Everybody tripping about Trump releasing the National Guard out there in D.C. Everybody tripping about Trump putting the military in them towns. Well, if you're not a criminal, if you're not out there in them streets doing anything you ain't got no business doing, you don't have anything to worry about. If you're not the gunslinger, if you're not the street runner, if you're not the one that's out there being notorious in those streets, if you're not the one putting tears in parents' eyes for no reason, for things, for stuff. If you're not out there terrorizing people, just wreaking havoc on the streets, you don't have anything to worry about. If you're not the problem, don't make yourself the problem. When the military hit them streets and they start grabbing people by the neck, I'm gonna be right there on my porch with a nice margarita, sitting there chilling, saying, I told you so. I mother-freaking told you so.
Imagine bringing your side project to life just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
Said I told you so.
So
With a margarita.
has federalized the police department in Washington, D.C., and people are upset. He's calling it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., and I couldn't agree more. The crime in D.C. has ran rampant, and it's about time that people can now have faith and trust in law enforcement out there and be able to walk the streets and not get hit over the head or mugged. I mean, why would anybody be upset with that? We just had a young member of Doge beat by a gang of young males.
Shout out to Big Balls.
I mean, why would anybody have a problem with that? The left is calling him a dictator. They're calling him an authoritarian. A lot of names that they throw. A lot of word salads. Of course, they're calling for him to be impeached. But the people that support him is calling for more. This is what we voted for. And we're very happy that this man is making DC safe. He's making America safe. Look at the border. Have we had any other illegal border crossings since he took office? Nah. A
Rock,
big
shout out
difference
to
from
you,
what we
Rock.
dealt with the last 4 years and who was responsible.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but imagine you open your door and you see crime all over the place. But you're in the power to do something about it. You expect for the President of the United States to be sitting in the White House, have crime breaking out all around him, having interns trying to come to work for him who got attacked, and him not do nothing about it. He has the power to do something about it. These people out here are armed. They don't care. They can't aim. That's why he had to bring in the Marines or bring in whoever the military. These people have no respect. It wasn't raised right. What are you supposed to do? Sit back and not do nothing? A person was attacked trying to get to the White House. That's all he doing. You got to clean up his house before you go clean up somebody else's. He trying to clean up the D.C. because that's where the White House is located. The first president in history is trying to clean up D.C. God bless America till it's backwards. Good job, President Trump. Clean up your town. Have a good one.
Yeah, you cannot tell me this is not benefiting us. It's definitely doing what it's supposed to do. I don't care who versus who, what they mean by what. Baby, it's clean and beautiful.
Isn't punishing homeless people in DC. He is spending money to get them off the streets and into shelters, rehab, or proper care. I honestly don't understand why liberals see that as a bad thing.
Because they're crazy.
Most of these individuals are struggling with substance abuse, refusing mental health treatment, or simply refusing to be part of society. Removing them from the street isn't punishment. It is cleaning up our nation's capital. People forget that many of the homeless are actually reported missing by their families.
That's a fact.
Others are drug addicts or even criminals on the run. When they are picked up, they are given choices. But living on the sidewalk.
Yo, I said this last night during the live stream. Like, this lady, to me, she was the most factual. She was the most lit because she just spit straight facts. And she said, you know, this isn't punishment. Like, most of you don't even, you fail to realize that homeless people are actually reported missing by their families, a good amount of them. I would know this from being down in Philly, especially in the Kensington area. Roderick, what's up? Shout out to you, Roderick. Good morning. I would know this because in Philadelphia, in the Kensington area. Now, if you guys know that a part of that part of Philly, then you know. If you don't, just look it up on YouTube because there's videos about it. But literally, people will say things like, yo, the people down there, they're so drugged up, they look like zombies. There are so many people down there that have been reported missing by their family. And I thought this lady was the most factual because she literally is like, what is going on in liberals' mind that they think this is punishment? Are they not paying attention to the fact that the people are out here on drugs, not properly dressed? They're sick. Some of them are struggling with mental health. Their families are reporting them missing. Like, everyone thinks it's just punishment, punishment, punishment. But sometimes the drug can have such a heavy effect on you that you want help and you just cannot get it. You're not in a right state of mind. And I just thought this lady made a great point when she said, like, this isn't punishment. Like, you guys don't even realize that people's family are looking for them and they're out here and sleeping in a tent drugged up and they actually don't want to be out here. So I thought she made a really great point.
Are actually reported missing by their families. Others are drug addicts or even criminals on the run. When they are picked up, they are given choices. But living on the sidewalk in Washington, D.C. is not one of them.
Exactly.
Trump is also cutting into corruption. When NGOs are handed money to solve homelessness, that money often disappears. Just look at California, which has the largest homeless population in the United States. They spent $24 billion on housing and homelessness and still have the biggest homeless crisis in the country.
So right now I'm down here in Union Station, as you can see behind me. Yes, 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 yes. And I walked through Union Station, it was different. See, I'm from DC, I live here. So I can tell you, I can be honest, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was nice. I don't even want to leave. Union Station, they literally, it feels different. Like usually when I walk through, it's got this hot darkness. It's like you're walking through some sort of semi-demi hood at night. And now it feels more light, upbeat. It definitely feels safe. But see, I can say that because I'm from here. A lot of people that are here protesting, they're not from here. They don't even live here. So they wouldn't know on a day-to-day basis like I would and some of the other DC natives. But yeah, I even saw U.S. Marshals up in Silver Spring. They rolled up on somebody when I said he was stealthy.
You don't need to stress out about car insurance. You just gotta be sure.
You only save money and headaches.
No spam.
They were in regular cars. I'm not gonna say too much, but they were in regular cars. I saw this guy throwing up these middle fingers. I was like, what's he doing? Is he tweaking? And I look, I kind of face where he's turned, and I see like 8 marshals, right? And they got like 2 or 3 people. They were silent. Silent. And this is Maryland. Well, it's still considered the DMV because it's the metropolitan area, but it's Maryland. And they're doing their work. The tax dollars at work. Yes. And Union Station literally feels cleaner. It's nicer. I could literally take a walk around, you know the great big circle right here? It usually has a ton of homeless people. It's got the F Trump sign. The people who are saying F Trump, I'm sorry, they look dirty. They look like they stink. And it looks like a homeless encampment, just a little bit. I mean, it's giving homelessness. Let me see that tent right there? The red and white stripes? It's giving a homeless encampment. And I think I saw somebody come out of there. It looked a little, it's like there's always this look to them. It's like I don't want to say mental illness, but it's like this, like, the mental health crisis look. Anyway, I saw they had like this great big banner. It says F Trump, and the guy's gonna be there for 4 years. Y'all ain't gonna do anything. And there's a sign saying, release the Epstein. What are you guys gonna do if you have the list? Dance around it? You can't do anything about it. You can't even hold the people within your general group. You can't hold up, I had a millennial pause right there. You can't hold people in different tiers responsible if you can't hold the people around you responsible. The general public has to hold themselves responsible, and they don't do that. What are you gonna do with the Epstein list? Please tell me. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna wage justice? You can't put them in jail. I'm more concerned about the people that I live around, the laws that affect me, not a bunch of rich people who do not live the same type of life as we do. Rich people can do certain things and not get in trouble. That's their tier. I'm not angry at them. It's just that I don't know why everybody is so lit over the Epstein files. That is not going to end world hunger. It is not going to serve any kind of justice to us. It just isn't. That's their world, not ours. But yeah, as far as the presence down here in Union Station, I mean, hey, I'm gonna be honest, it's cleaner looking, it's nicer looking. You still have some people asking for money, but they're like only 2 or 3, and they're like right by the escalators. They're not inside. They're not people like zombies on the inside. I was able to take an actual walk around the circle without smelling weird stuff. It's nice. I mean, I spoke to some of the military people. They were so nice. I said, I'm glad you're here. They were like, thank you. I even spoke to the U.S. Marshals up in Maryland. They were sweet too. They had no attitude, even though they were busy. Like, he was busy, and he still spoke to me so nicely. So, like, literally, thumbs up, Trump. Get him.
A lot of people running into a panic because they don't know what to do because Trump is sending them troops down here to clean up the world. To clean up the world. I'm trying to figure out why everybody's so scared. It's time for the world to get cleaned up, man. It's time to clean the world up. It's too messy. All that drama, all this death, it's too messy. Everybody acting like they love what's going on, but you don't hate what's going on, but y'all actually love it because when somebody's trying to do something about it, y'all mad. Y'all trying to protest it and things like that. Come on, man. We need somebody to save our planet. Our people really ain't gonna do it ourselves. When we try to save our people, it's like we're going against our people. Or they might try to shoot us down. So by Trump standing up as a white man doing this, they can't touch him. Why not let him clean that up for us and help our people out? I'm tired of our people dying. I'm tired of seeing young black people dying. I'm tired of it.
Yo, Casper, where you been at? Shout out to Casper. We got a special guest in the house. I had to literally pause the live stream. I'm like, yo, I know who that is in the chat. What up, Kid Casper? Yo, I would say chat. Everybody say W Kid Casper. But y'all don't, if y'all don't know this guy like I do, then you just don't know. I hope you're making content again. I know you like a dad now. I know you got I think you have a daughter now, right? I don't know how old she is. But yeah, man, we gotta talk soon. I know, man, I know you gave me your number, but my number changed. So we gotta find a way to get in contact. Just hit me up though. You're on here right now, but I don't want you to put your number in the chat. But shout out to you, bro. Thanks for stopping by.
Y'all actually love it because when somebody's trying to do something about it, y'all mad. Y'all trying to protest it and things like that. Come on, man. We need somebody to save our planet. Our people really ain't gonna do it ourselves. When we try to save our people, it's like we're going against our people. Or they might try to shoot us down. So by Trump standing up as a white man doing this, they can't touch him. Why not let him clean that up for us and help our people out? I'm tired of our people dying. I'm tired of seeing young black people dying. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. You should be tired of it. Too many kids, innocent bystanders, old people, everything. I'm tired of it. So Trump, big ups to what you doing. I come from the gangbanger life, but I changed my life around. You know what I'm saying? I got purpose. I got meaning. You see what I'm saying? Y'all need to tighten up, man. For real. Ain't nothing wrong with what Trump doing. For real. Because for one, a lot of y'all getting out of hand. Y'all don't know what's going on. Y'all ain't following the law or none of that. Y'all ain't following the laws of the gangs or none of that. What y'all expect? Y'all out of hand. Everything gotta have a balance to it. That's out of order. Clean it up. And if you got something to say about that, that means that you one of the ones. You're a problem. You're a real problem to
For real. I'm glad Trump's speaking up and trying to help our people out. He ain't trying to destroy us. The only people gonna get destroyed is the ones that's trying to go against that that want to keep the evil going. The ones that y'all steady crying about and crying that something need to change. Somebody need to help. Somebody need to help, please. The world is crazy. We need to save our people. Well, the time is now. That's what Trump doing. Big ups to you. You know what I'm saying? Keep going. If you got something to say, man, kiss a mother ball.
I thought y'all said DC was gonna be looking like Germany in the 1930s. If you go around DC and talk to the residents after Trump's decision to federalize the city, it sounds like the residents pretty happy to me. It's crazy. Every time Trump do something, y'all had this emotional ass outrage. Then y'all say it's gonna happen. Never happens. Just like y'all said we was gonna be slaves again when he got elected. But anyway, after it doesn't happen, it's straight silence. They are about something else. Make it make sense.
If you're here in Delaware and Maryland area, don't miss out. We have a summer special going on
But Donald Trump proved that it's possible to end black on black crime. He proved that, right? In DC, his troops, no murders for the entire weekend. That is insane. And to think that the left would protest against that, to think that the left would say, oh my God, it is a bad thing that black people are now stop killing each other. And the reason why that is a bad thing for them is because that is a core of liberalism, right? That is part of what makes them victims. So if you take away each sort of victim mentality peg or pillar, that's one less person that's going to have a victim mentality. So that's one less person that'll be a leftist. That'll be a woke libtard, right? So they are freaking out. But what's crazy is the fact that he could actually fix that. And with police, who would have thought? That's why I always say every hood should have one prison in it.
They said FBI, DEA, ICE, and all that outside of Washington, D.C. I don't even have it on my shoulder no more. I'm walking around with this. I ain't hiding none of this. I'm walking blocks for this month. Listen, jump out on me if you want. I'm gonna scream. They're gonna be here in 33 seconds. That's what you talking about. Get out your belt.
Man, the city is crazy. Yes, we got the National Guard. But y'all really that upset? I'm not. Can I tell you why? I've been to multiple funerals in the last year. Multiple. I have a person in front of mine who lost her daughter to gun violence. She was 3 years old. You think I'm mad? I'm more mad that she got killed than I am at Trump. See, y'all pick and choose what y'all want to be mad at. But when them little ass boys was outside shooting up neighborhoods and all of these little kids was getting killed, I ain't see all this anger. I ain't see all this outrage in this road. Why? Because it ain't hit your doorstep? Y'all mad about the wrong shit. Y'all mad about the wrong. Y'all should be mad at these kids outside and they ain't got no control. That's what y'all should be mad at. All the statistics. I'm speaking to you from a personal standpoint, what I've seen with my own eyes. I've rolled a 16, 17-year-old into a church household. In his casket. Y'all never did that. And you want me to be mad that something is going on today, something is happening now to cure the streets, to slow down violence?
You can hit me up on there too, Casper. That's
and I
cool.
ain't mad that it might take longer, but something is being done. Y'all got pick and choose. Y'all was cursing Murray Bowles out. Now y'all cursing Trump out about something that he trying to help and deal with. Was y'all mad at the mayor as much as y'all mad at Trump? Because under her administration, I still see babies dying every year. We ain't went 5 months without a kid dying. Baby by ages 1 through 14, they asses dying. But you want me to be mad at Trump. Y'all want to be mad at Trump. How? I'm watching these people die like on a monthly basis. Y'all not seeing it? What, y'all don't see it now?
for the residents of DC because for the first time ever, there's not really any overt crime happening in DC. For the first time, there's not a bunch of murders. For the first time, there's not a bunch of gang violence. For the first time in many, many decades, these people can actually go outside and they don't have to climb over homeless people. They don't have to hold their kids' hand and tell them to step around the pits that the homeless leave on the side of the road. That there aren't a bunch of people outside in the middle of the street drinking with their 40s and shit like that. Like there aren't a bunch of shell casings little kids have to walk over. Yes, finally, the ordinary residents of DC, the ordinary, people like you and me, our community, can actually get a break. These children can actually go outside. They're not gonna get shot. They're not gonna end up dead or on t-shirts. For the first time, their parents can take their hand and walk them to the park and not have to explicitly worry about them being shot up on the block. Yes, I'm happy that DC is being taken over. I'm happy the FBI, I'm happy that people of DC get a chance to breathe. They get a chance to go outside. These kids get a chance to walk to the park without dying. That's what you're missing. The people that live in these specific streets, these specific blocks, these specific areas are happy that they don't have to deal with the riffraff anymore, are happy they don't have to deal with the piece of people that would rather shoot up their own community than do something better with their life. This is the first time in forever they're probably able to breathe. This is the first time in forever I haven't seen a bunch of gang violence happen. Kids' lives have been saved because of the extra police presence. And that's what you guys are forgetting. Children's lives have been saved. Teenagers' lives have been saved. Young adult lives have been saved. The amount of gang violence that has not taken place since there has been extra support in DC, a lot of lives have been saved. And people are overlooking that.
I think it's easy for people to overlook something like that because they don't live there. And that's why I've said so many times on the live stream, if you're not a DC resident, I mean, you can chime in and give your opinion. Everybody has an opinion, just like they have a body part. But it's not necessary because, like I said, if the residents that live there don't feel safe, then it doesn't matter. If you can't go to the store without being robbed or beat up, if you can't go to your car without being mugged or carjacked, if you can't go to work, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to want to live there. And I think it only counts how those people feel. And you saw the one young lady, she's like, oh, I'm talking to the U.S. Marshals and they were nice to me and they said hi. So all of this, propaganda that the mainstream media is spending, like, oh, it's a hostile takeover and Trump's acting like, like he's a dictator. And it's like, no, he's not. If he's allowed to take control of any place in the United States, I mean, he can send troops into anywhere, but if he's allowed to take control anywhere, it would be at the nation's capital. This is why Washington, D.C. is so different. And I've said I don't understand why people would be upset when we have world leaders from other countries coming, and we don't want them to see that. But that should be obvious to us, and it's not. So I'm glad that the D.C. residents are brave enough to speak out and say, if you don't live here, just shut up, because we're good with this. All right, guys. So we'll switch gears and go to Face the Nation. Maryland governor, so this is Wes Moore, calls Trump D.C. National Guard deployment unconstitutional. So Wes Moore, Ben Shapiro has predicted maybe one of the 2028 presidential candidates on the Democratic side. So let's take a listen.
Quiet here in Washington as we come on the air this morning, but the debate is heating up over President Trump's calling up of nearly 2,300 National Guardsmen, along with federal agents from ICE, the ATF, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the FBI, and others, to patrol the streets of the city alongside DC police forces. And we're seeing yet another instance of Trump's expanding of the federal government's reach, this time when it comes to control of police in local communities. Will we see pictures like these in other U.S. cities in the future? Well, one of the places President Trump has mentioned as needing help fighting crime is nearby Baltimore. And joining us right now is Maryland's Democratic Governor, Wes Moore. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So here in DC, there are guardsmen from 6 different states on the street. The mission is, quote, beautification duty and support. The defense secretary has authorized them to carry M4 and M17 rifles, but to date, we have not been able to locate anyone armed within the National Guard on the streets of DC. Why, though, are you so opposed to this deployment?
Well, there's plenty of reasons. One, it is not sustainable. You cannot continue this type of pace of operations, particularly when it's costing over $1 million a day in order to do this. The second, it's not scalable. You're not going to be able to do this in every single major American city, particularly when many of the cities that have the highest crime rates are the places that have actually deployed their National Guards to Washington, D.C. So who's going to go do the work in their cities? The third, it's unconstitutional. It's a direct violation of the 10th Amendment, and for a party that talks about state rights, it's amazing how they're having such a big government approach in the way they're conducting public safety. The fourth reason is because it's deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. As someone who actually deployed overseas and served my country in combat, to ask these men and women to do a job that they're not trained for is just deeply disrespectful. And so when we're thinking about all of these lasting factors, when we think about the fact that it serves as a distraction from the fact that the president's disastrous economic policies are making everything more expensive for everyday Americans and making life harder for everyday Americans, there is a multitude of reasons that I'm against this, and I will not authorize the Maryland National Guard to be utilized for this.
Well, the National Guard does say that these troops will be trained and deputized by federal marshals. So this is going to be distinct from the military rules of engagement.
But it is counter to every bit of training that we received. When I joined the military, we joined with a clear intention to fight and win our nation's wars. The members of our National Guard are trained up to be able to address things like emergency situations where you need a surge of supports for traumas and disasters that are happening within individual jurisdictions. That is not this. And this is a direct deflection that the president is authorizing.
We know the president watches the program, and he likely saw the guest listing because he's tweeting about you, or truthing, I guess. He says the governor of Wes Moore of Maryland has asked in a nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. And he's talking about crime-ridden Baltimore. It's quite lengthy, but he goes after your record on crime. He says it's a bad one. He says if you need help, he will send in the troops, which is being done in nearby DC. I mean, when we saw a few weeks ago the deployment on the streets of Los Angeles, the governor of California tried to go to the courts, and he was unable to stop it. Is the reality here is you can't stop the president from sending troops to Baltimore if he wants to.
The year before I became the governor, in 2022, Baltimore was averaging almost a homicide a day. And I came in and I said, I refuse to be a governor who just offers thoughts and prayers to this situation. So we said, we're actually gonna work in partnership with Mayor Scott, work in partnership with local elected officials, work in partnership with local law enforcement. We made the largest investments in local law enforcement in our state's history, over $50 million going to Baltimore City alone.
That came from federal money.
That came from both federal and state money. And also, Maryland became one of the only states that actually helps to fund the U.S. attorney out of balance sheet, taking many of those gun crimes and actually turning them into federal charges. And the results have been incredibly encouraging, where Maryland's had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime of anywhere in the United States in the past 2.5 years. Yeah. The homicide rate in Maryland is down over 20% since I've been the governor. And the last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. And so the reason that I've asked the president to come and join us is because he seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance. These tropes and these 1980 scare tactics. And just last week I was in Baltimore, and I was with a group called We Are Us, who's a violence intervention group. And they say, we're all we got, we're all we need. And that's exactly how people in this community feel. Because while the president is spending his time from the Oval Office making jabs and attacks at us, there are people actually on the ground doing the work who know what supports would actually work to continue to bring down crime, but it's falling on deaf ears of the President of the United States.
You're talking about the positive trend line. The president's pointing to the FBI statistics, which shows Baltimore is the 5th most instances of violent crime on a per capita basis, 4th highest murder rate. To your point, the city of Memphis is also on that list, and the governor of Tennessee sent those National Guard troops here to this city, not to the streets of Memphis. But
and we know we have work to do. We know, like, if one person does not feel safe in their neighborhood, that's one too many. But we also know what tactics actually work and what tactics are just theatrics.
But the mayor of Baltimore did just say he wants federal help. He doesn't want National Guard troops per se, though he says he wants agents from FBI, DEA, and ATF. Do you need more federal help in policing if your mayor thinks you do?
Oh, absolutely. And we need the president to stop cutting funding. Because if you look at the president's budget, it actually cuts funding towards violence intervention groups. It cuts funding towards the bureaus of the FBI and the ATF that are supporting local jurisdictions like Baltimore. That it doesn't do anything about things like ghost guns and these extended Glock clips that allow these Glocks to essentially turn into automatic weapons. Those are actually real tangible things that the president of the United States could do, and where you can put capital to actually make our communities safer.
So you are a Democrat who is, President Trump says so as well, possibly a presidential candidate.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can't.
He talked about you the other day.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time talking about you.
I've been on his mind.
You're spending time talking about crime. Is this something that, as a Democrat, you think the Democratic Party needs to be more vocal and muscular about when running for office? Because I hear you doing that. It's a very big change from 2020. When the idea was defund the police.
Absolutely, and yeah, the president's spending all this time talking about me. I'm spending my time talking about the people I serve. And yes, I believe that we have to be able to address the issue of crime. I came up in, and I have existed in neighborhoods and communities that have been chronically neglected. And I remember one of the first things that happened in our first months in, I had to visit shock trauma inside of Baltimore, because Baltimore had one of the largest mass shootings in its history. And I visited a young man, a teenager, who was just finished surgery and had one of his testicles shot off, and was talking about how is he ever going to become a father. And I said at that point, I refuse to continue doing this and not putting the proper resources in place and not being able to put a real focus on making our community safer. And that's why it is so frustrating when we're hearing from the President of the United States something that is just purely performative, without actually focusing on these communities and these neighborhoods who believe that progress is possible and who are willing to put in the work, and we're just simply asking for Washington to be able to acknowledge it and support it.
He says you're not presidential timber at all. I imagine you disagree with that assessment?
No, I've been very clear. I'm not running for president, but it's interesting but it's interesting. The president seems to be more concerned about my future than he is about the future of the American people. And that's where I'm asking him to keep his focus. Focus on the things that actually matter right now, which is the fact that his economic policies are driving up prices on everything from electronics to the clothes that we wear to the food that we eat. Talk about the fact that his immigration policies that are knocking out tens of thousands of jobs in the state of Maryland. Talk about the fact that you are about to kick veterans and seniors off of health care. Don't worry about my future. Worry about theirs.
I want to ask you, you brought up immigration. One of the residents of your state, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was just released from pre-trial detention on Friday, but the Trump administration's instructed him to report to ICE within 72 hours for deportation to Uganda. He's originally from El Salvador. He was mistakenly deported to that prison in El Salvador and then returned to the U.S. This is federal policy. This is not state policy, but I do wonder, is there anything that you are doing to help his family stay united?
And what we know is that, and all we're asking for is that the Constitution be followed on this. The Constitution is very clear about how we deal with these types of issues. And when we look at what's happened in this situation, it's the president manipulating the fact that we have a very broken immigration system inside this country. But instead of actually doing the work that it requires to fix it, actually working in Congress to come up with a comprehensive immigration bill, the president is working to exploit the brokenness. And I am very clear that there is no higher priority for me than public safety.
You want him to face a day in court, in other words?
Absolutely. I want due process. I just simply want a court and a judge to decide what is going to be the future fate of this case and all cases like this, and not simply the President of the United States or the Secretary of Homeland Security, who's trying to be judge, juror, prosecutor, and executioner inside this case. I believe in the Constitution, and I believe that that's what we should follow for this case.
I want to ask you about something your party is tinkering with here, redistricting, gerrymandering, as some people know it. You've said you don't like talking about it, but all options are on the table when it comes to your state. There's only one seat here that is actually Republican, and it's a seat held by Representative Andy Harris. Are you considering trying to redraw lines in Maryland?
Yeah, when I say all options are on the table, all options are on the table.
Are you actively looking at it now?
Yeah, because and I think we have to. Yes, and I think we have to. Because I think what's happened is this is what people hate about politics in the first place, the fact that the President of the United States, very similar to what he did in Georgia, where he called up a series of voter registrants and said, I need you to find me more votes. We're watching the same thing now where he's calling up legislatures around the country and saying, I need you to find me more congressional districts.
He's doing it. That may be different, but Democrats redistrict. You know this,
yeah.
But Gavin Newsom's doing it right now. A few years ago in New York, we saw this. This can backfire. Do you really want to go down this road?
I want to make sure that we have fair lines and fair seats, where we don't have situations where politicians are choosing voters, but that voters actually have a chance to choose their elected officials. We need to be able to have fair maps. And we also need to make sure that if the President of the United States is putting his finger on the scale to try to manipulate elections because he knows that his policies cannot win in a ballot box, then it behooves each and every one of us to be able to keep all options on the table to ensure that the voters' voices can actually be heard and we can have maps.
In that one district where they have a Republican representative, that they are actively being represented in Maryland?
I think if you look at maps across the country, less than 10% of congressional seats are actually competitive by nature, less than 10%. And so if you look at the average win margin in our state and so many states, the average win margin is upwards of 20 to 30%. So that means we already have so many gerrymandered areas that we have to be able to add a measure of fairness in the way that it's applied. And so yes, all options need to be on the table in the state of Maryland.
And you're looking at that you said.
Yes,
Governor, thank you for your time.
I don't know how I like that answer too much about the gerrymandering part, but it's cool. The next clip right here with Wes Moore is shorter, but he's actually giving a message here to President Trump, who's wanting to deploy the National Guard to his state. Now, CNN covered this about 10 hours ago. So let's listen to Wes Moore's message because it's very congruent with what we just heard.
Now, the president has long championed the death penalty. For D.C., though, I should note, it is not a simple ask, given capital punishment is not even in the city's legal code, and achieving it would likely face major obstacles here. But this all came as the president also made clear he plans to extend federal control over D.C. with help from Congress after his 30 days to do so is up, and will then require their authorization.
Number one, we want to stay there for longer than 30 days. As you know, we have an absolute mandate, and I can extend it, but I'd rather not have to declare a national emergency because by that time, I mean, right now, there's not an emergency.
After the president threatened to send in the National Guard to other states and cities, one governor invited him to come to the city that he was calling out, an invitation that the president responded to this way today.
Baltimore, Wes Moore was telling me I want to walk with the president. Well, I said, I want to walk with you too someday, but first you got to clean up your crime because I'm not walking in Baltimore right now. Baltimore is a hellhole.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
My lead source tonight is the Democratic governor of Maryland that you just heard the president mention there, Wes Moore. And Governor, thank you for being here tonight. I think just first off, what is your response to the president calling Baltimore, as he put it there, a hellhole?
Well, the president seems to be obsessed with me. Today he called me a beauty, and when I first met him, he just talked about how I was a good-looking guy. And now he just continues to make statements that are just flat out false about our state's largest city. The reality is that when I first became the governor, Baltimore in 2022 had about a homicide a day. Now, in the past 2.5 years, Baltimore and the state of Maryland have had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime anywhere in the United States. The last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. And we have done it by making historic investments in law enforcement, by making historic investments in predictive technologies, and we've done it by actually working with the mayor, working with the state's attorney, working with community violence intervention groups, and working with the community to be able to ensure that people can feel safer in their neighborhoods. And the thing is that we know we have more work to do, but we're not going to be performative or cynical about the way we are doing it, and not taking the approach that the President of the United States seems to be taking about making people safe in communities.
What are you going to do if he sends in the National Guard to Baltimore, though? I mean, we've seen other governors try to fight it, like in California, Governor Newsom, and, losing, they lost that battle in court.
Well, I'm very clear. I am the Commander-in-Chief of the Maryland National Guard, not him. And the Constitution authorizes that. And so the Maryland National Guard moves on the authority of the Commander-in-Chief, and I will not authorize the Maryland National Guard to be activated for something that is either not mission critical or mission aligned. And I think what the President of the United States is doing is not sustainable, it is not scalable, and it's also not constitutional. That it is a direct violation of the 10th Amendment. And even if he wants to talk about other things he can do to try to activate, the reality is that he still needs states to be able to invite the federal government to come on board to be able to do that. And the thing that gets me most about this is how deeply disrespectful this is to members of the National Guard who signed up for this job, as I did when I deployed overseas and I led paratroopers in combat, where we signed up with the expectation that the Commander-in-Chief and the people who was declaring our orders was actually taking it seriously. And the problem is we are seeing a lack of seriousness from the President of the United States to a very serious situation. And that's why I invited him to come to Baltimore, to come be educated, to come learn, so he doesn't have to spout nonsense from the Oval Office and things that are just blatantly not true about what is actually happening and the work that's happening in coordination to make people feel safer in their neighborhoods.
Does that invitation still stand?
That invitation still stands. I would love for the President of the United States to actually come and learn. I would love to be able to introduce him to our violence interrupters that are on the ground, groups like We Are Us that are on the ground doing the work. I would love for him to come spend time with the Mayor of Baltimore to go learn about the things we actually need. For example, if the President really wanted to not spend $1 million a day on something that is theatrical, actually spend that time and put those resources, that money, into things like license plate readers. Put that money into things like making sure that we can put more cops on the beat, and then we can also make sure we have more community violence interrupters, and they're getting the supports they need.
You point out that crime is down, rightfully so, in Baltimore, but some people might look at the numbers and say, okay, well, the city still has the 8th highest overall crime rate, 3rd highest violent crime rate, and those are numbers that justify what the president is saying. I want you to listen actually today, because this was a point he kept making repeatedly during this cabinet meeting, which is basically he's winning a political game against Democrats, that they're making other Democrats defend crime numbers like what I just said there. Listen to how the president put it today.
At Insurify, we make it easy to cut your car insurance bill in half. Half? How?
The Democrats have lost $2.5 million. Other than that, they're extremely happy. No, they're very depressed. They're very depressed. And their new box that they've fallen into is crime. There was a consultant on one of the shows this morning I was watching. I thought he was very good. He's a Democrat consultant. And he was screaming, no, no, don't let him do this to you. It's another trap.
Do you worry that it's a trap?
I worry that he's not taking this seriously. This isn't a game. This is not politics. The 8 years under the previous governor of Maryland, we went 8 years in Baltimore with 300 plus homicides every single year unabated. That during that time, during the 8 years of my predecessor, the homicide rate in the state of Maryland nearly doubled, the non-fatal shooting rate did double, and I refused to be a governor who's just going to sit there and offer thoughts and prayers while we allow bloodshed in our neighborhood. So what did we do? We actually got serious. We actually started working together. We started making historic investments in our community groups and in local law enforcement. We started actually making investments to ensure that we could use technologies to stop crime before it happened. And if someone committed a violent crime, particularly with a firearm, I want them in handcuffs in 24 hours. We started taking this seriously. And that's the problem that I'm seeing here, is that we are actually working together to take this issue seriously. And right now, from the President of the United States, with his jeering cackles around him, that the only thing we are hearing is them laughing about the fact that this is a political ploy. It is real to people who have lived in communities for so long that have been neglected and that have been ignored. And I can tell you right now, when they are watching the fact that this is just becoming a political game, to those who are sitting in positions who could actually do something about it, that is the thing that will have consequences in the ballot box later on.
You mentioned what the president has said about you, talking about how you look. You actually interacted with him last year at the Army Navy game. He's claiming that you called him the greatest president of your lifetime. And there's actually audio of the conversation that the two of you had that Fox News aired. Obviously, you were there for this conversation, but I want everyone else to have a chance to listen to this.
President, welcome back to Maryland, sir. Welcome back to Maryland. It's good to see you. It's in person. Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Great to see you. Great to have you back here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we were very, very anxious to work closely with you, and I know the key bridge is something that we're it's going well. I mean, we spoke with Speaker Johnson yesterday, and Speaker Johnson says he believes we're close to 100% cost share. And the thing is, I told him when we get that much of cost share done, we are going to be able to go over the key bridge and the launch, because I will have it done in 28. All the time on budget. We'll help you out. Thank you, sir.
Did you interact with him at any other point in that conversation? Did you ever tell him he was the greatest president in your lifetime?
I know this is breaking news to everybody, but the president is not telling the truth. What happened right there was when I first met the president, and then after he started talking about how I'm a good-looking guy, I started talking about the importance of the Key Bridge and how this state put on a case study on how to recover in times of crisis, that we were able to bring closure to all 6 families, to the individuals who were lost that night on the Key Bridge. And when they told us it was going to take 11 months to clear the federal channel, that this state got it done in 11 weeks. And we started talking about how it was going to get done. And then he later on invited me to come sit with him at the game. And I told him, I said, I'm good. I have my own seats. And I want to go sit with the cadets and the midshipmen. So no, I never called him the greatest. And I just find it absolutely comical that that was the way he remembered that conversation.
Governor Wes Moore, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
No offense, but if you're paying more than $30 a month on car insurance, you're getting ripped off. Everybody knows you can.
The cat's out the bag. What you think, babe? He says, I know it's breaking news, but the cat's out the bag. Wes Moore said, I know it's breaking news, but the president is not telling the truth. I'm like, oh boy. All right, guys, so we're going to switch gears now and go to CNN. Do not come. Illinois governor blasts Trump's plan to deploy National Guard. So this would be Pritzker, blasts Trump's plan to deploy National Guard. He says, do not come. All right. So this is why the title I have, Baltimore and Illinois looks like they're next. So let's take a listen.
Back off. That is the message to Donald Trump from the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. In a fiery speech, Pritzker slamming Trump's unprecedented crackdown on crime, as Trump calls it, and Trump's threats to send the National Guard to Chicago.
This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals. There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. There is no insurrection. There is no insurrection. Mr. President, do not come to Chicago. You are neither wanted here nor needed here.
Okay, well, that's pretty loud and clear. Pritzker doesn't want the National Guard in Chicago. Well, that used to be enough to not get the National Guard sent to your city, but not anymore. Trump has been giving himself more powers to expand his use of force across the country. And right now, he has set his sights on Chicago.
I made the statement that next should be Chicago because, as you all know, Chicago is a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need them, freedom, freedom. I mean, I see Pritzker saying, we don't want them. In the meantime, his city is being shot to hell. And they do that politically. And they probably do want it.
Trump railing against the crime in Chicago, but just a quick, basic fact check of the situation. Chicago is a city that has seen a substantial decline in the number of homicides, something that Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago have pointed out.
13 of the top 20 cities in homicide rate have Republican governors. None of these cities is Chicago. Chicago is not in the top 25 of the most dangerous cities in the United States. And these facts are indisputable and widely acknowledged.
Another city seeing a decline in violent crime as of late is Baltimore. Yet Baltimore is also on Trump's radar.
Baltimore is a horrible, horrible deathbed. It's a deathbed.
He calls Baltimore a deathbed. And yet in the same breath, Trump then went on to tell a story about, I mean, this is an incredible story because he says that he met the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, who, by the way, infamously grew up in Baltimore, now the governor of Maryland. So he meets Wes Moore at a football game, an Army-Navy game, and this is what Trump says happens.
He came over to me, hugged me, shook my hand. You were there. He said, sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime.
Maybe if he'd gone a little shy of greatest, if he retold the story of he said you're doing a good job or something that might be more believable. But here's the thing, that's kind of hard to swallow. And a short time ago, Governor Moore responded to Trump's claims.
I'm a person who takes my integrity very seriously. And I spent the past 6 months before that election campaigning as to why I did not think that he should be the next president of the United States. So when I say that conversation never happened, that imaginary conversation never happened, I mean that conversation never happened.
Moore, Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, all saying no to Trump on using the military in American cities. But their words don't seem to matter.
What is increasingly becoming self-evident to anyone with eyes wide open at any level of objectivity, a private army for Donald Trump. Owing an oath only to him, not the Constitution of the United States.
So Newsom says that. What's interesting is that is a claim that Trump does not seem to be shying away from at all.
I'm chief law enforcement officer, believe it or not. You know, I don't like to go around saying that, but I am. That's the position.
It's an interesting thing to say, right? He's not talking about commander-in-chief, which isn't something one would usually just be out talking about as president anyway, but he's phrasing it chief law enforcement officer. Jeff Zeleny is out front live outside the White House beginning our coverage this evening. And Jeff, there are signs today from Trump that he plans to take this law enforcement takeover, right, in certain Democratic cities even further.
Well, the president signed a series of executive orders, Aaron, and one of them was designed to do just that. He's instructing his defense secretary to create specialized units, as he described them, inside the National Guard for rapid nationwide deployment in areas that where law and order is needed. Of course, not many specifics on that, but look, the National Guard is used for emergencies. And the question here is this an emergency? But you would be mistaken if you thought that President Trump was concerned by any of this Democratic pushback. In fact, this is clearly one of the strategies at play here. Here we are nearing the end of August, and President Trump has spent the lion's share of this month at least talking about domestic matters, making the issue of law and order, of crime and justice. And he has quite literally turned this into a new and nationwide issue. Yes, crime existed before, but he is proudly wearing that hat as the law enforcement commander-in-chief. That is what he wants to be seen as, wants to be known as. So he was bragging and crowing about the what he says are changes in the Washington D.C. Crime statistics ever since he federalized the police. He was giving homicide statistics from the Oval Office. It's something we've really not seen before at all. But yes, he is going to at least think about discussing sending the National Guard to other cities. But there are limitations to what the National Guard can do in Baltimore. In Chicago, yes, they can protect the federal buildings, they can protect the federal assets, but they cannot serve as law enforcement officers. However, is this going to be a legal challenge? It certainly seemed that way from Governor Pritzker. But again, you'd be wrong if you think President Trump is bothered by any of the criticism. Aaron.
Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. And of course, you start one place and you end in another. People don't push back. Everyone is here with me now. So Lulu, you have obviously spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. You were at Union Station today. National Guard's there, right? So they're stationed. And, I remember seeing them in LA. A lot of them are young guys. They're doing their jobs, right? So it's not about individuals. This is about the fact that they're just there in large numbers now. And you took some pictures that you have shared with us. So these are Lulu's pictures from today. What was it like? What up to you there?
It's strange right now in DC because it feels like a city that's being strangled. Right now, the District of Columbia, which is home to, let me remind you, 700,000 people, more than the population of 2 states, has the highest unemployment rate in the country because of what has happened with the federal workforce. Restaurant reservations are down some 30% in some places. You can't get deliveries because so much of the enforcement has targeted delivery drivers that they are afraid to come out. The Latino community is afraid. And every conversation I have with people in DC, they all say that it feels like an occupation. This is not a city that is welcoming what is happening. It is a city that is afraid. It's like, based on the previous videos I played, who has she been talking to? In America, to see armed military on the streets of an American city. And this isn't just any American city. This is the capital of this country. And so what does it say when you have federal forces on the streets of our capital city? Democrats say it is a power grab. Donald Trump says it's about crime, but he wants to export it to other cities. What I can tell you from living in DC is that this is a very, very uncomfortable and people feel dangerous time.
Yeah, well, it's, as you say, sometimes when you see law enforcement everywhere and yet you don't feel safe. The true awkwardness of that moment that you're talking about. And Governor, what's your reaction to what Lulu is saying?
Well, we should remember that Donald Trump campaigned on aggressively and boldly tackling the decay and danger that he saw in America's major cities. And so this is a fulfillment of a campaign promise. I don't think he got into the details of exactly how he was going to do that, but directionally, that's what he said. Number two, how much of an emergency do you need after years and decades of the high crime and danger in these cities without any real sustained period of turning it around? Yes, crime's down a little compared to a high base from a couple years ago, but still in our major cities across this country, public safety and not backing law enforcement is a major concern. And President Trump has boldly, maybe over the legal boundaries, we'll see, but boldly gone in to try a case study in DC. And by the way, the early results for the first 2 weeks per the DC police, it's working. There's a significant reduction in significant crime in DC since this started.
Well, I know, Lulu, they were saying there had been a stretch here of, 2 weeks or something. There was a longer stretch back in March where there hadn't been a homicide.
What you're hearing from the wards where there is a lot of crime, what you're hearing from those wards is the criminals are staying home because they're not going to go out in the streets. So sure, there's not going to be a murder right now because they know that there's military out on the streets. But is this really a long-term solution to the crime problems in our cities? Is the federal government going to take over every city in America? And also,
but it could be in DC.
What does it mean when these people are beholden to this president? And he's only targeting blue cities. As some of these Democratic governors have pointed out, a lot of the cities are in red states. Why aren't they being sent there?
This is how dopamine obsession looks.
There you go.
Intense bored.
That's what they said. He's only targeting
The
blue
troops on the
cities.
streets of D.C. have begun carrying weapons, even as President Trump is basically saying mission accomplished and signaling that his takeover of law enforcement in D.C. will soon spread to other cities. An executive order signed today directs the Pentagon to create specialized guard units in every state to deal with, quote, public order issues.
And we want to go from here to other places. I made the statement that next should be Chicago, because as you all know, Chicago is a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. This is one of the safest cities right now in the world, as crazy as that sounds. And it took 7 days. It took really 3 days, but we're now on our 11th day.
Right now, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is expected to hold a news conference pushing back on Trump's claim that Chicago is in the midst of a crime emergency. And the city's mayor is already vowing to fight a potential deployment of troops.
What he is proposing at this point would be the most flagrant violation of our Constitution in the 21st century. The city of Chicago does not need a military occupation. That's not what we need. In fact, we've been very clear about what we need. We need to invest in people to ensure that we can build safe and affordable communities.
All right, my panel is here along with CNN's Jeff Zeleny at the White House. So Jeff, take us through the president's expanded federalization of America's cities.
Well, Pamela, this is just one more example of the use of executive authority the president has been exerting since he took office, but particularly over the last several weeks in terms of federal law enforcement. It's the specialized units of the National Guard. The president signed an executive order today, one of many in the Oval Office, clearly wanting to keep the focus on law and order, to order his defense secretary to create this specialized unit to be ready to go in cities across the country, but it's very vague in terms of what they would be used for. Of course, the National Guard is called up all the time to help out and assist, but it's done by the state's governors. It's not done by the President of the United States. So that is the big difference here. But there's also been a big blurring of the lines of the law enforcement activities and functions as well as the National Guard functions. They have historically been very, very different. States' rights, of course, also a key point of the Republican orthodoxy, usually not mentioned at all today by this president or the White House. But the president is fixated on Chicago, as he said earlier in the Oval Office.
As you all know, Chicago is a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator.
So Pamela, this is all just one more of the latest example of the president's interest in expanding the military role to law enforcement activities. Clearly, he wants law and order to be the centerpiece of his agenda. It's really one of the few things he's talked about in the month of August, at least on the domestic front, never mind foreign policy. But clearly he was effectively saying how successful his federalized takeover of the streets in Washington has been. He said crime is down. Of course, this has largely been an immigration enforcement exercise as well, but it's an entirely different matter if you would send troops into Chicago, and that's where you're going to see a potential confrontation with Democratic governors like Illinois' J.B. Pritzker.
All right, well, let's discuss with the panel. Jeff Zeleny, thanks so much. Joining us now in the arena is CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams, senior political correspondent for the Wall Street Journal, Molly Ball, CNN political commentator Xochitl Hinojosa, senior advisor to the Trump 2024 campaign, Brian Lanza. And we are also joined by former acting vice chair of the National Guard Bureau, retired Major General Randy Manner. Major General Randy Manner, stand by. We're going to get to you in just a second. I want to go to Elliot Williams first, though, because you heard Jeff ending there on the note of, look,
There's 8 billion.
Chicago is different from DC, right? When you look at a federal takeover. What is the legality here?
The president can recommend anything to a jurisdiction that he wants. He can recommend anything to a governor that he wants. He can ask a state legislature to act, and Congress can suspend funds or hold funds to a jurisdiction to get them to do something. But in terms of writing a law in Washington, D.C., getting Chicago to change its laws or getting the state of Illinois to change laws, that simply defies the Constitution and the laws of federalism. So again, it's a polite ask, it's a suggestion, it's an order of sorts, but they can't enforce it lawfully. Now, certainly the president can work with the governor if he wishes to activate the National Guard there and thinks there's an emergency in the state, and frankly ought to do that if there is an emergency. But again, Washington can't dictate the laws of a jurisdiction.
And we should be hearing from the Governor Pritzker very soon. Major General Manor, I'm going to bring you in for context here. The president signed this executive order to establish these specialized National Guard units to address crime in cities and reestablish public order, as he said. Can you explain how that might work, how these units differ from what we see in the DC streets right now?
It's really important that all your viewers understand that this is a law enforcement operation in the president's eyes. It is not a military operation. Our young men and women in uniform are not trained in law enforcement activities. They receive at most a couple of hours of training.
Black is my favorite
not
color.
4 to 6 months that police officers receive. These specialized units, this is extremely disconcerting. Again, to the average American, they might know about infantry units, armor units, transportation units, signal units, and now they're going to create what? Occupation forces that are going to be trained to go in and to occupy a city. This is so un-American, it just makes me sick. This is not something that is what America is about. This is about creating literally military units to monitor our people. And this is actually very disparaging. I'm actually in shock the president is directing the Secretary of Defense to do this.
Those are really strong words from you. What is your reaction to the arming of the
Green
National
is
Guard
cool.
troops in DC?
I mess with green.
Every time that we deployed the military when I was the acting vice chief, down to and including when I was just a battalion commander in the Virginia Army National Guard, then later as a member of the DC National Guard, we always looked at what was the mission and what were the risks that we were going to be involved with. Obviously in combat operations, but equally as important when we were doing disaster recovery, when we were doing helping to save people for flooding or forest fires, we look at what was the mission and then what was the risk to our guardsmen and to the people that we were helping. The idea of arming our soldiers and airmen is absolutely absurd. There is no risk that justifies this. This just furthers it amplifies the voice. This is for not because there's a risk against the guardsmen, but because the president wants to see uniformed, armed people on the streets. The same thing with the use of heavily armored vehicles on the streets of Washington. They're not designed to operate in environments like that. They are built and should be used in combat operations or in the United States, perhaps moving through floodwaters to be able to save Americans. They should not be used as photo ops in front of the Capitol or in Union Station.
All right, stay right there, because I want to bring Brian Lanza to get a reaction to what we just heard. I mean, you heard the Major General say these specialized units in the National Guard are un-American. There's no justification for having the National Guard troops. They're armed on the streets, that they're really photo ops, I should say. What do you say to that?
Listen, I think the president has made it abundantly clear that extra manpower is to arrest criminals. It's to arrest illegal aliens, to get them in the process of being deported. I mean, he has stated what the mission is of what he wants this National Guard to be. He wants the National Guard to arrest criminals, which everybody supports, and he certainly wants them to focus on the illegal aliens that he's trying to round up and deport. You know, it's easy to see how he can do that in Washington, D.C. I suspect the courts are going to have stronger opinions when he goes to Chicago.
So wait, I guess the question is, are they there to conduct immigration enforcement or to conduct local criminal enforcement? Because those are two totally different things.
I think you've seen them do both, right?
Right? I mean, they're there in the support role, so then that raises the question, why would they need to be armed?
It's very important to understand that National Guard capacity do not have the ability to arrest anyone whatsoever.
Mike, shout out to you, Mike.
This idea that the National Guard is going to arrest anybody is absolutely a falsehood and is illegal. Remember, I, like most Americans, fully support community-based efforts to fight crime, and the president needs to reinstate the funds that he pulled back from local communities for engagement and for hiring additional law enforcement officers. The idea of using our American military against our own people is absurd, and it is not the way that I joined the military or anyone else does to make this happen. The Secretary of Defense said the men love this mission. I'm going to tell you right now, they do not like it. They do not like doing things that they are not trained for, and they do not like the idea of just standing around so much. They like defending our country, and they like saving American lives, and none of those apply in this situation.
Molly, how do you see it? Do you think this could backfire President Trump?
Absolutely. Look, the audience for this is not the people who live in these cities, right? Most Americans don't live in cities. Most Americans live in suburban or exurban areas. And so I think what Trump is doing here, he realizes that the politics of law and order are a winning hand for him in a general sense. People do feel that crime is out of control. People actually feel, most people believe crime is getting worse, even though that's not actually the case according to the statistics that we have. And so the idea that, you know, these mayors in cities, in red and blue states alike, have failed to contain the crime problem, and that therefore the president has to take action and step in, I think that in isolation could be a winning message. I think the concerns that have been stated here about the way the administration is going about this, without partnering with the jurisdictions in question, without necessarily following the law in a lot of cases, and as Jeff said, seeming to use this more as a pretext to do immigration operations than to actually pacify the streets of these places.
Yeah, I'm an AI, but I'm here to talk apps. Real apps you can build in minutes with Base 44. This finance app solves your business headaches, tracking invoices, managing.
So I'm gonna leave that right there. I'm not gonna play the next one. I'll save it for later on. There's another one I wanted to play by Pam Bondi, but I'm gonna wait. All right, guys. So I'm gonna wait till the next one because there's something I wanted to play by Pam Bondi. It was a certain type of high level immigrant they arrested recently, and she was making she was at a press conference about it. But I'm gonna save that to the later on live stream. So thank you guys for stopping by and chilling on the corner with me. I will see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful.